Just bringing you guys back for, I suppose, a bit of a review after owning this welding positioner, and just share some of the thoughts and some of the things that I've found. And probably in the later half of this video, I'll just talk about how to use the actual timer on, or how it actually works and how to set that up. There's no information, as I mentioned in the first video, about how that actual timer works. I'll sort of show you that in the later half of the video for those who are interested. But mainly just wanted to cover first, in this first section, probably just some of the things that I've found since owning it for, I think it's probably 8 or 9 months since the first video, where I showed you the actual welding positioner and some of the things I was talking about that I want to change on it to improve the things that I wasn't happy about. More so just the bore size than anything else, than problems with the positioner itself, but just the bore size I wanted larger, and then come back in a second video and showed you what I did to change the size of the bore. And now coming back in this third video now, just talk about some of the things I've found since owning it for that amount of time. And I did mention that I was concerned about current transferring from the main unit back into the control box, and I did find that was happening. I've changed the original standoffs that are on the unit now to plastic. I've just machined up myself, and just bring those in, the ones that were originally on there. So you can probably see these sort of a bit of a slot cut in the back of there, possibly. There's something you guys, if you're concerned about it, maybe it mightn't happen to your position, but it's something that I just sort of add into this video, just something to be mindful of. If you do buy one, there is some current that transfers from the actual main positioner back into this control box, and so I'll be doing away with those. I won't have any use for those now, so just put those aside for the moment. But I've just made these up, as I say, to mount the control box on. For those who are not familiar, I'll just bring the box up and just show you how that mounts. So I've got these little keys on the back here where it keys into these standoffs. So the unit just mounts on there, like so, as you would want it to be. And that just sits on the side there, which is easier to use it like that. Of course, you can just mount it anywhere you want. If you do decide that you do find the same problem with yours, don't sit it directly on the bench where you're welding, or your welding position is positioned, because it probably will transfer back into the box still. If you do, just take it off the unit itself, just put something underneath it to stop it from connecting electrically with the bench. Same thing with your welder. You don't want your welder touching your workbench or your workpiece, and the same thing with this electrical box or control box. That was what I was concerned about. So if you do that, and that's one of the things that I was doing when I first got it, because I didn't have time to make these standoffs. I just had to get the first job done, and straight after I finished the job, I made these standoffs for it. But just put a piece of wood or something that's non-conductive underneath it, and then just put it on your workbench. Don't just stick the box directly onto the bench. So as I say, so that was a bit of a concern that I mainly just wanted to show you guys in this video that I was, as I say, was concerned about. And obviously it happened, so it's just something you have to be just mindful of. Just try to get that into focus for you guys. I don't know what's jumping in and out of focus. Probably the other thing is probably to cover is probably just go through the timer. For those guys who are interested to use the timer, not just go through what I've learnt. There's probably mentioned in the first video, there's no paperwork to tell you how this unit works. It's pretty straightforward, but there's no information about how to use the timer, but you can muck around with things and get things working. But otherwise, it's been great. That's probably a bit early to tell any problems with it or anything like that, but it's been good so far. It'll probably be a few years before you see any dramas sort of show up, but it depends on how much you use. It's like anything, isn't it? So it depends on how hard it gets used, or how often it gets used, the wear and tear on it. But it has been good. So if you're thinking about buying one, I'd sort of give you the thumbs up for it. They are pretty good for the price that they're asking for them. They're not cheap, but they're still a good unit compared to what else you could buy. But for those who are interested now, I'll just get you set up, and we'll just go through how to use the timer. I'll get this moved out the way and get this control box set up, and we'll just go through the timer for those who are interested. And those who are not, you can jump out now. But if you have any questions about the position or anything like that, just get back to me in the comments otherwise. But we'll just get, as I say, just get this set up, and we'll go through the timer now. So I've got you zoomed up nice and close. Most of you probably know, if you watch those other couple of videos, about the features on the front of it. Fairly straightforward, just to control, for those who haven't, control the speed of the table, direction, lock. I have no idea what that is. It doesn't seem to have any use for anything that I've used it for so far, but obviously there'll be a use for it. Foot control or auto, power switch obviously, and the reset which we used for the timer, and just a pilot light up the top there, which is lit up at the moment. I'll just bring that up a bit closer so you guys can actually see exactly what I'm looking at. Hopefully that'll stay in focus. You can see probably the little dip switches along the bottom here and another set up the top there. So you've got, so pretty simply you've got down and up, and you can probably see some numbers. Just bring that right up close. You can probably just see some numbers in between. So on these first two, you can see some numbers, and on the last two, you can see numbers. And in the middle, there's a letter, which is probably showing up as red. Hopefully that's coming up okay. It's a bit hard to see in the little viewfinder on the camera. So you can scroll through each of those and just set your timer. So you go up or down. So it's set on 10 seconds, as you can probably see on the display at the moment. So you'd probably only want to use these two lower buttons. You probably wouldn't need to go into the hundreds. 99 seconds would be probably more than enough for a rotator or positioner. But there is the option to go into hundredths of a second and thousands of seconds up to here. But with this button in the middle here, it seems to just operate, what I've seemed to be able to find is on the M setting. So you just scroll through that. It's got M and then S. So just press that again. Seems to have another M in there for some reason. So, and then H, and then back to M again. So you just need to run that on the M setting. Well, that's what I've found anyway with it. So you need to have that set up on that. And all we do is just to set the timer, or to set the timer going, is just press the reset button at the top here, the little green button, and that'll kick the timer into gear. So it's just counting in seconds, obviously, as you can see on your, if you're watching down the bottom of your screen. And that just clicks off then, as you can hear then. So that'll just run the positioner for as many seconds as you want. You could probably tie that in with setting it up for probably like, I suppose, like a semi-automatic type of machine, I suppose you could say. You could set the timer up with, like electrically set the timer up with your handpiece, so it's turning the welder off and turning the position off at the same time, or whatever way you'd want to set that up, whether you're going past the point of it or whatever, depending on the process. But the timer could be handy for that. I don't have any use for it myself. I just use the foot control for it myself. It's just fairly straightforward to use the foot control. But I just thought I'd include this in this video because I didn't cover that in the first video, where I did talk about it quickly, but I didn't really show you how that works. And for those guys who are interested, it might be handy to know how that works. But otherwise, everything else is fairly straightforward on the front of the box. The unit itself's been good. I did have a bit of a drama with the cable. One of the cables on it that actually drives the motor. That's why I couldn't set it up on the motor. One of the little wires broke off the actual, which is a bit of a pain, but I have to go up to the electronics store and get basically another plug for this. So one of the wires actually broke off. There's another little piece that goes inside here, but I mean, you get what you pay for. It is still a Chinese machine, and the electrics aren't perfect on it, but they are pretty good. I'm not going to sort of run it down, even though it's Chinese. Probably people saying, oh, it's Chinese crap. But I mean, you're going to have failures no matter where the thing's made. And it's just one little thing that's just broken. It's just a little wire's broken off in the back there. So it's just something I have to fix. And because we're stuck in the COVID-19 restrictions at the moment, we can't really go anywhere. So I'm not even allowed to go to my electronics store to buy a simple plug. So when them conditions sort of get finished with, I can get up there and get that resolved. But that's probably no bearing on anything for you guys. But I would have liked to show the table turning, but I'm pretty sure you guys can get the gist of that anyway. But it just runs off that timer. Just hit the reset, and it just kicks it into gear. When you first turn it on, it will start the counter as well. As you'll probably see, I just switch it off and switch it back on. So going into your off position, and when you flick it on, you get the same thing. The counter will count up to whatever you've set it to. So that'll just count to that. And just if you want to use it in the foot control position, you just push it back to that position. So that's normally where I run it anyway. But that's probably long enough for this video, more than enough. As I mentioned earlier, any questions, any mindful questions anyway, if you put some effort into your question, I'll put some good effort into giving you a good reply. But otherwise, that'll probably do for this video. And if there's, as I say, if you've got any thoughts or things you want to ask me about, just get back to me in the comments. Otherwise, that'll do for this video. Look forward to seeing you on the next one. Okay, bye for now.